This is the UK Brand Show with Penny Williams and Mark Challinor.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. And hello, Penny.
Hola, Mark.
You well?
I'm very well. I've just come back from Madeira, so I'm very happy. Although I can't show off my tan because the weather's so poor.
Well, I saw you on social media enjoying yourself, that's for sure, yeah? Look great.
Yes, fantastic. It's a bit of a digital nomad's paradise now, apparently. So very relevant for this show that a lot of marketing, media and online people are now working from Madeira because the extreme sports are great, the weather's great, it's good Portuguese hospitality, so highly recommend Madeira.
And did you have any of those, what they call them, the patel natals?
Yes.
The little custard tarts, I so love them.
Oh yeah, some amazing pastries.
Yeah, yeah. I was just thinking about going to a gig in Portugal, in Lisbon in January, funny enough. So
yeah, I do like Portugal.
Well, you were in Madeira, weren't you? You said particularly.
I was, which is slightly different. Yeah. African sun, so it's much further.
Yeah, much hotter, I would imagine there as well, is it?
Sorry.
Much hotter, I would imagine.
Yes,
there.
African sun, not very humid. Reminds me of the old sort of. I mean, obviously, it's cooling off, so it's only 25 this time. But it reminds me of the old English summers. Before we seem to have a lot more humidity these days.
Yeah. Well, it's not you that's just been traveling, because I've been out to Copenhagen and Denmark.
You have, yes. I can't wait to hear all about it. I'm so sorry I couldn't make it.
No, it's fine. So in case anybody's wondering, it was for the International News Media Association's annual conference, which is the first one back.
Face-to-face?
Face-to-face in person, yeah, for 3 years.
What sort of numbers go to the conference, Mark?
Well, normally about 200 to 250 people go to this particular one. So it's the European version of it. Yeah. So not the World Congress, the big one, but it's a big one as far as Europe is concerned. It's the European Division's annual bash. So we didn't know whether, people wouldn't come back at all after 3 years away, or whether they'd come back in massive numbers. Well, as it turns out, it was a sellout. We couldn't get any more into the venue.
Amazing.
So we had to kill it at 300 people, which was brilliant. So, what I'm going to do, I'm going to tell a little bit about what I did out there, which was relevant to what the whole thing was about. So I'm going to, let me just put this into play. There we are. So, so this is what it was all about. It was about Copenhagen. Have you ever been?
No, it's one of the places I would love to go. It's on my list.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place. This is called the Nyhavn, which is their harbour. With lots of restaurants and bars around there.
Do they do Christmas markets?
They probably do, although there wasn't when I was there, but they probably do, yes. And I did a presentation in this ex-print hall of their major newspaper there. They've left all the paint on all the walls, and I thought it was like, God, are they still in the middle of not finishing this when I first walked in? And then someone said, no, we used to with the print hall, the professors were in here, and they've left it as it was and just made it into a conference space, which is brilliant. But just to go back to the start, this is what I talked about, and what I think is the major focus and concentration area, not just for media, but for most companies going forward. How do you use your data going forward? Because people may or may not be aware that Google are about to, in next year, end of 2023, it's been put off and put off and put off, and it's going to be now 2023. What's called the deprecation of the cookie. So things are following around the web, and people get loads of information about people through third-party data. With cookies, that will all cease to be. It was all far intrusive. There's things like GDPR on the line now, so people need to be more responsive. So the emphasis going forward will all be about how we take our first-party data, the stuff that we own ourselves or on the third party, and how we exploit that and manipulate, exploit it, and use it to our advantage in a regulated way, should we say. So that seemed to be the focus a lot of all the presentations out there. And that's what I was talking about. And a lot of people have gone down, media companies especially have gone down the road so far of actually using first party data for subscriptions. So they get you to subscribe to something.
Yeah.
and and that's it basically. And they can get your email address, they ask you for it, and various things about you which you're prepared to give away. But you could take that data if you own it, which you do, if you do it correctly and get it with people's consent, and then exploit it to your own advantage in a responsible way, using this first-party data for the things. So I'll show you what I mean by that as we go along here. So anyway, that was Copenhagen, as I say, and that was this thing. So we had 300 delegates from 35 countries, newspapers from all over the world there, from America, Australia, as well as mainly around from Europe. It was a European event, basically.
So was anyone from Ukraine there?
Yes, there was actually. Yes, and there was a special initiative announced by the association that they're going to be doing a thing towards Ukrainian newspapers to help them get back into the, and get them up and running again, all the rest of it, because a lot of them have lost so much business and their businesses full.
I've been engaging with a Ukraine agency recently that are looking to, take on some digital work because they've had to move to the very far west and trying to engage with European companies. So that's great. Yeah.
And you'll know, if you've not been, but you'll know what this little character is on my left ear, which is the Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
And it is little. It's tiny.
Very.
So you've got to do that when you go there. It's all part of the thing. So I talked about data, and I talked about what we call the data lake, and how we put all our stuff we can get into the data lake and try and mix and match the stuff we get and exploit it. As I say, it's all got its own importance. And I used to start the presentation off, I used a little simile, which was about the US satirical cartoon series, series called South Park. And do you remember this thing called South Park?
I do indeed, yes.
So it was a very irreverent cartoon madcap series.
Yeah.
And one of the seasons, if you like, that they did, this is back in the 90s and early 2000s, they had a character called the Underpant Gnome. And there were lots of these little men, as you see there, and they lived in an underpant lair. And what they used to do all day was collect underpants, and they stole them off people washing lines, and you can see them all piled up there. But they had a 3-point business plan to life, how to live a successful life. And number one was collect underpants. Number two was they weren't sure about number two. They were going to come back to that at some point when they worked what number two is. But number three was untold wealth for everyone. But they hadn't quite worked out how to go from this collection of underpants to this massive wealth. They knew that there was a lot of wealth there. They could work out what the middle bit was, but they couldn't quite work that out. It was quite a funny thing. It's a madcap thing. But the point of it is that if you go to media advertising, the secret or untold wealth or profit is probably recognizing the fact that data is really important. It doesn't matter if you're a media company or a small little business on the high street or whatever you are, a one-man band or whatever. Data will be really, really important going forward, and the stuff that you own, the data, the first-party data. So maybe that equation is all about collecting data rather than underpants. And there's a middle bit, which is the puzzle bit, and then that leads to profit. And we'll come to what that middle bit is in a minute. But I think the questions everybody needs to think about in whatever business of all these things here, how do you identify the steps to get you there to talk about, get your data in a state where you can use it? Why is it important? Where do you find it? What do advertisers want? There's loads of companies out there listening to this who've got websites and they have advertising on that website. What do they do to convince their advertisers that it's good for them too? Because you can give them products they'll prepare to pay for a premium for example. Then, why do we examine all the opportunities? How we do an advertising strategy around data? What about privacy? This thing, as I said, it's all about consent. And what about privacy and ethics? Where does all that fit in? Does this cookie apocalypse, as some people call it, matter anymore? When the deprecation of the cookie happens, does it matter? Because if you've got control of your own data, by the time they start getting rid of the third-party cookie, does it matter if you've got real good control over your first-party data? So, there are all these sorts of things we need to think about. And I've always said that, and we've said on this show, that the equation is all about data plus technology plus creativity. The bit we forget about is a better experience and more profit.
Indeed.
So the process the things we need to know about why is data important. The basics are, look, the more we know about people, the better the relevance we're going to be able to give them back, and therefore the better experience they're going to get. And that's what it comes down to, the bottom line, really. So in a media sense, and people can apply this to their own business, it's about collected data from people who register with you. Every time you go onto Facebook, you may just click onto Facebook, but you're a registered viewer of Facebook. You're registered, and every time you go on, you're going on as a registered subscriber, whether you think so or not. Even the fact you go straight into the page is only because you've said, you're going to let me in if you want, but you are a subscriber. So whether you're a subscriber or not, this collected data we have of ourselves will replace the tracking as we know it today. So we have all the data sources going into a central lake, and it'll include things like the web data we collect, and we put them into our advertising systems then for personalized ads and targeted ads. So we give people a better experience of people who engage with us, our readers, our viewers, or whatever. And that's the sort of short of it, in as much as it's people at the moment, and I'm shocked the amount of media companies even around the world who are still not at the races yet in terms of grasping this. You've got to grasp this. They grasp largely the subscriber bit, but they've not actually thought, they've definitely thought, well, what do we do with all the data we get from subscriptions? How can we make it better? A good example of that is Netflix. So Netflix this year reported they lost hundreds of thousands of viewers.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah. Why? Because they say, well, there's lots more services out there and streaming services, lots more competition. People are password sharing. There's lots of different factors. And what they've not done is thought about how they actually use the data they've got from their Netflix subscribers and exploit it in other ways for their own benefit. And this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So I run this advertising committee for Inmar, and this is one of my members, Thomas Schultz Humberg, and he said what we need to do ultimately is fill up the data lake, but don't run aground on the short term and no cookie world. We need to grasp it now, and don't wait for this cookie apocalypse thing to happen next year, because if you wait for it to happen and you haven't done anything about your own first party data, you're lost already. You're behind the curve already. You need to do things now and get ready for it. So the things you need to get on track, as I say, I've talked about Netflix and the subscriber fatigue, maybe also. It's all a perfect storm, they think of it as. And it's regarded now that maybe, and people are starting to think that maybe, as I say, subscriptions are great, but maybe they're not enough to support the business alone. Maybe it needs a hybrid model. Maybe it needs a model whereby you can subscribe to Netflix for £10 a month, whatever it is. You can also subscribe to Netflix with ads for £6 a month.
Yeah.
Maybe blah, blah, blah. There may be a range. And that range of subscriptions might be perfect for this current cost of living crisis. People have a choice of what they want to spend, because every household has a limit of what they can spend on subscriptions, whether it's to the gym, to a coffee, to wine clubs, or whatever it is. We need to think about people's budgets now, especially in this time where money is tight. What are they going to spend their money on? And we need to give them an opportunity whereby they have a choice of subscription, maybe, which incorporates advertising. I don't think there's anything wrong with putting advertising in subscriptions anyway. It's always been regarded as a dirty word, advertising, alongside people paying for subscriptions. Why? It's part of normal life. It might have been once, but not anymore, I don't believe. So anyway, what we need to do all of that is get the right technology to analyze this single customer view to serve better experiences to people. But we need to do that. We need to get the right data.
It just strikes me, Mark, some people might not actually know what the cookie changes are for next year. Can you summarize it?
Yeah, well, it was what I was saying earlier, really. It's the things that follow you around the net. So if you click on a website and you've bought something which is, I don't know, maybe a pair of trainers, something will register you buying those trainers, and they may well say at the start, when you go on the website now, do you remember most of the time you'll get, click I consent, or whatever.
Yes, or you can manage your own cookies, can't you?
You can. Well, most people can't be bothered, so they just go, oh yeah, whatever.
Yeah, agreed.
Trainers.
Yeah.
So you're basically sometimes signing your life away on those things, and this is where the third-party cookie comes in, as in they will probably follow you around the net now. So if you've highlighted that you want trainers, you may well find that you're suddenly getting ads popping up in various places, whereby there may be tracksuits to go with it or whatever, and you'll think, oh bloody hell, that's really good, isn't it? How did they? I've just bought trainers. I need a tracksuit. I need that. Whereas it's obviously not by coincidence. It's followed around the web. So that's what I'm talking about. It's got a bad reputation in many circles because people think it's an invasion of my privacy. Whereas if it was a first party data thing, which is me saying to you as a subscriber to my website, would you mind if I used your thing? And we're very open about, this is what I'm going to use it for. I'm going to try and give you a better experience and be very transparent. Then it's a different set of things, this set of rules. And that's what this is about. Because if you get the right data, you can do pinpointed targeting. You can find browsing patterns, social media activity, online purchasing behavior. Imagine what you do with all that if you knew about that by your viewers. There's companies like the Media 24 in Johannesburg. They use surveys with their customers. They're very open. We honestly tell you what we're going to do with your data. And these are all the things, and tick which ones are of interest to you, and be very honest and open with people. So we need to know the user's aims and goals and their issues and their challenges and their needs and requirements first. And that's got to be the core of any data-led ad strategy. And that's the crucial thing. So in terms of a first-party data advertising opportunity, that was for media I did in Copenhagen, but it's for anyone really. The cookie is crumbling, as the phrase goes. But many businesses are in a strong position to do something about it. If they do something about it now, don't wait for this third-party cookie to disappear. So Publish, for example, are now creating, as an example to follow, really robust subscription models that interlink with advertising systems now. Digital ad money can supplement those subscriptions. It's a growing trend. Adobe said recently that 77% of websites out there, generally, not just media, and 82% of all the digital ads out there use tracking cookies. Well, what's going to happen when all those disappear? If you're relying on tracking cookies, you're going to be sunk, aren't you, in 12 months' time? So we need to, as I put there, the businesses who know their audiences can fight this cookie apocalypse with their first-party data. It's got to be the foundation to go forward and gives a better experience. And maybe collaborations away forward. There may be people in your industry who now you've thought you're just competitive with, who you might be better linking in with. There's a company in the UK called the Ozone Project, and they now sell advertising on behalf of the likes of the Telegraph and the Daily Mail combined, and other media companies, and they sell digital advertising. So if you're an advertiser, you don't say, I want to buy, X thousand Daily Telegraph readers. Instead, you'll be saying things like, I want to buy 10,000 people who are ABC, living in a certain area, who are, on websites this amount of times a day, much more specific and much more targeted. And what they will do is deliver you an audience with that brief, looking at the Telegraphs, the Mails, all the other publishers' inventory, and picking out from the data, from the segmentation of the data they've done, and they can actually give you an audience which is better suited to what you're trying to achieve. It delivers to an audience which is more relevant. So that's what it's all about, really. We just need to take control of the future and change the way we think about things. And in a business where, if you look at Facebook and Google, they can change your business overnight in a heartbeat by just changing the algorithm. That's what they do. They change the algorithm overnight because they can. And suddenly you wake up one morning and go, hang on, that's changed. Well, do you really want that? You're not in control. If you've got first-party data, you're in control of everything. So in terms of the pointers, in terms of putting a strategy together, it's all about personalized advertising campaigns. That's what you can do. You can deliver something very personalized. You can look at location-based targeting. People that live in a certain area, you can target them. You can integrate data with contextual ads, just things which are in context to the environment you're in. That can lead to bespoke offers, both promotional, subscription, whatever. And it'll all ultimately optimize your advertising channels. It'll increase your engagement. It'll enhance your user experience. And it's a continuous circle if you keep investing in it. And you need to, make sure the people you allow loose with us, that they are using data to the maximum and they give them clear guidance of how to use it. Otherwise, you get misuse of it.
Yeah.
There's so many people do that. Just so and so can look at the data, and you got experts who know what they're doing about it. And where I mentioned about privacy and trust and ethics and stuff, well, transparency is the way to go. We've got to advise and work with our advertisers and share the insights we get from our data, so that we become experts to them. They're looking for guidance. They're looking for people to guide them, because they don't know all the terms themselves, or what they should or shouldn't be doing, and what to do about GDPR, etc. But if we can be the experts in that, we're going to benefit from this. Into the advertising money we're going to get off them, if we're seen to be trusted and we're seen to be expert in that field. So we're going to be better at communicating all of this. How do we store the data we collect? What's the security aspect around it to give them trust in us? And how do we protect the privacy of people? All those things have a value, and it's something which people don't really realize. It's got a huge value if we get the communications that correct. So Google are saying, if you do nothing and you don't have a compliant data strategy, and when this cookie apocalypse comes along, they say we can expect up to a 50% advertising reduction. So it may be, if you are relying on advertising on your website, it can mean 50% of your business disappearing overnight. That's why you need to take it seriously now. So, and of course, it leads to negative impacts down the road for user experience and, the use of first party, etc. And the bit about creativity I just wanted to mention briefly is that, we can use data to embrace this creative element. We can use visual interpretations of complex data inferences, stuff which is boring on a spreadsheet. You can use creativity to highlight data in a very sexy way, in a very clear way, which people understand easily. And we can help the advertisers on their journey down this road. And it was interesting, there's a company called Borrell Associates from the US, and they did a survey this year of 2,500 media planners and buyers. And they asked them all sorts of things about, what do they want? And it turns out that whether they were a big agency or a small agency, I'm getting this short of a very long story here, whether you're a big agency or a small agency or a small advertiser, all the media planners and buyers all said the same thing, basically. We need help. We do need you. We need people who can consultative sell to us, not just try and sell us, the old Stan Flashman thing, where hope you coat up what you want to buy.
Yeah. Intelligent selling.
Yeah, exactly. Intelligent selling is right.
Yeah.
They need that, because either they don't have the time, they don't really understand all of it, they're too busy on other things. They need someone they can trust, and we could be that source of trust for them.
Yeah.
And these are the qualitative things that they were saying as well. That what's the data saying? Because we don't know. Once someone sold us something, we never see them again. So what are we doing about following up with the advertisers to make sure they're happy with what we've given them, and how do we give them the insights that we're getting from our own data to help them make further decisions? We need to be trusted with them. So don't overstuff them though, just give them stuff which is going to be simple and easy to use. So again, I mentioned I have an advertising committee, and this is what they said. Subscription advertising combined is important to us. It remains to see how much the cookie deprecation will affect us, as we hope to have a robust first-party data strategy in place by the time it comes in. We aim to take control. That's the biggest national newspaper in Canada. Data has been important for subs, but we still have to improve more for advertising. We're working at the moment how we set up our teams to utilize that. Maybe a team for print, one for digital, maybe one for all of them. That's what one of the major newspapers in Folha de São Paulo says in Brazil. And in another media group in the States this time said subs and advertising data are most important. We learn things like the time people are spending on the site, their preferences, their behaviors, what they're interested in, all this from a first party data point of view. And we can use these for our advertising efforts. And she says, do you know what? There's a lot more collaboration between departments because of this, because it involves so many people in the company. It becomes more of a happy family. And I won't read all of this. I'm just going to highlight the bit in the box I'm going to say now, which is, this is the Globe and Mail more in detail thing of what they said in Canada. They said they changed the way they run things, their structure, their processes, their collaboration, the cross-department stuff. They define roles people do differently. Measurement's really key. But what they've said is the valued customer success measures that the team uses are all data-led, and that's customer insights, campaign performance, Did they get the expectations there or not? Or what KPIs did? The production in the process, what service levels were given, all that's around the first party data they've collected, which helps them cement relationships and deeper relationship with their clients, their advertisers. So this is the South China Morning Post, and they did a very simple thing. So they just said, look, we're going to collect all this information ourselves from our apps about what people use in terms of content, their ads, their like or not, give them some polls to ask their opinions on things. We then use profiles built on all those data points. We created data points about browsing behavior, interests, etc. And then quite simply, we shared those insights with our advertisers to make them more respected and more trusted. A newspaper in the state, the Philadelphia Inquirer, they realized that, you know, higher CPMs on a website are powered, higher CPMs are powered by first party data. So it's a potentially small audience, as you see there, but, you know, there's much more money attached to them. And what they did was from their subscriptions, they got all the information seen on the screen here. When people subscribe to their newspaper, they got their age, their gender, their income, blah, 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 blah. And they use that for an advertising purpose. They did an online concert, the thing called Beethoven in Beijing. And they found that when they did it, I'm giving you kind of a short or long story here, when they used the first party data they collected to target people, to get an audience, to get people to buy stuff around the event, they got a click-through rate that was 15% higher than what they'd expect normally. And then I think we've got this one in Germany where I mentioned collaboration before in the Ozone Project. This is what this is really, sharing the technology, sharing the relationships, focusing on the customer to give them a better context from all the data they all receive from the publishers, to put it all together into a data warehouse and give customers what they want rather than just what we want to give them. And finally, everybody looks to the New York Times. And this is interesting what they said. They plan to aggressively expand their ad business. They said they've spent 10 years attracting more revenue via subscriptions. Back in 2012, they started all this, but they now see the opportunity for revenue via new advertising products. They bought Wordle recently. That's going to be monetized very soon. They do lots of things around cooking and crosswords and stuff like that. They intend to monetize them in a better way. And they said, look, we aim to scale up our premium proprietary ad products across the whole subscription bundle in the next 2 years. So that's what they're going to do. They've started already. They began phasing out the cookie during COVID period, and they're optimizing all the first party data collection.
They're always the leaders, aren't they, in the media game?
Yeah, they totally are.
Yeah.
And this is what they said. Look, their annual subscription revenue surpassed the ad revenues back 10 years ago. Since then, the gap between the both of them has got bigger and bigger, and the advertising business shrunk.
Yeah.
Now, this is what their CEO has and the product guy said. The product guy said, ensuring advertising as a key presence, all of essential subscriptions is key. That's going to close the gap. The CEO there, Meredith Kopit-Levian, said, we're confident what we're doing is building, first party and data and premium ad products that our subscription first strategy enables, and they can do these wonderful stuff and wonderfully creative things, which is all about, again, data plus, technology plus. So the points to summarize on finally, we need to use data effectively, focus on the user experience. As I said at the start, we need to extract it, manipulate it, and then exploit it. We need to use all these new tech developments which are out there, which can help our future growth. First-party strategies, first-party data are all about, in the media's case, ads and subscriptions together. It may be just advertising for people watching this, who knows, maybe both. How we can accelerate the monetization using different models, something like the Netflix thing, gain all the benefits, get everybody across the disciplines in your organization to buy into it. You get happier advertising clients and you get more subscriptions to your bag. And you can learn deeper learnings, insights, inferences, signaling, behavior patterns, all the rest of it to enhance the user experience. I think the future advertiser, they want all those things there: transparency, control. They want to personalize ads. They want creative ads. They want optimization of customer experience. They want reporting and measurement, and that's all data-led, but not exclusively so. They always want that human element of creation bespokeness and the expert selling from us. They still want us to go in and say to them face to face, you're not doing it right because this is how you should be doing it. We know from the data we've got. So that's why, as far as these guys are concerned, that is the future as far as we're concerned.
Yeah.
That middle bit has been solved.
Integrated data strategy.
Exactly right.
From
So that was
Samsung.
it really. That was all it was all about. And I think that's where it's all going from a focus point of view. It's all about data.
Yeah.
People need to know their data. So the lesson to take from all of this, whether you're a company, big or small, one-man band, huge company, data is going to be really, really important, and grabbing hold of it and taking control for the future.
Well, we've talked about it a lot in the past, haven't we? And I just think consumers are even more demanding now that they have less patience. They want us to have more insight so that we make the right offerings to them. So yeah, all makes perfect sense.
So it was a good conference, really enjoyed it.
Very good.
And we're now ready for the next major one, which is the World Congress in New York next May.
Well, hopefully I can get to that one, Mark.
I think you should. I was about to say the same thing.
Yes, good. I'll get my ticket now.
So that's it. If anyone wants to engage with us, Pen, how can they do that?
Yeah, well, you can listen to more shows at the ukbrandshow.co.uk website or email us through that. We're on Twitter and Facebook as well. So direct message through those too. We'd love to hear from you.
We would indeed. So that's it for this week, folks. Thank you for tuning in or listening in or whichever channel you're in. And we'll hope to see you again soon.
Great to see you. See you soon.
Bye for now.
Bye.